Andrea, thank you so much for being on today. We're so grateful that we get to talk to you. I would love if you could introduce yourself.
Okay. Thank you, Courtney, for having me on. I'm Andrea Putting and I live in Melbourne, Australia. And what I do with myself is I'm a speaker and an author, which led me into becoming a bespoke publisher. So that's a fun thing to do. It gives people the opportunity to learn and grow and get their book into the world as bestsellers. Apart from that, I'm a grandmother. I do all the kind of grandmothery things.
Love that. What inspired you to start your company?
With the publishing, what happened was that I had 3 books that I wanted to publish at the same time after our long COVID lockdowns. I had these 3 books, and how was I going to publish them? Because, publishing can be expensive, and to do 3 books was just out of my reach. So what I did instead was I invested in learning how to publish. So I went to people who are experts in the field and got them to teach me everything about that. Once I completed those, got them done, I was then started people started to ask me, "Can you publish my book for me?" And so that's really what happened, is that people wanted me to do their books because of the way that I do it, and it's a great it's great to be able to offer that to people I know and the connections that come out of it, because I quite enjoy that aspect of it.
Love that. What is your personal publishing experience? Did you reach out and query before you decided to start your own company, or did you just decide this is the what you're going to do and that's how you got on your own publishing?
Well, I had a book previously that I had written with a co-author, and he was an Indian man, and he was going back to India to promote our work. And he got the book published in India, and I had no control over that and how it all went. And, I just didn't want that experience again. So with these books, I did look at what other publishers were offering. I wasn't looking at traditional publishing because I looked into that and decided that that was going to be a too hard basket thing to, it's just not certain whether you're going to be able to do it. And I wanted to get my books published. So I did look at various opportunities that were around. And like I said before, the thought of publishing 3 books was gonna just be far too much to do. And even 1 book at the time, it was like, I don't know if am I going to make this happen with 1 book? Am I going to spend what was I still think ridiculous amount of money from a lot of publishers. So I couldn't afford to do that. Which is why I keep my prices much lower than all of those, because it's important to me that people do get their word out. So I've kind of zigzagged around for a while trying to work out what the best way was and decided that this was the best way for me.
Amazing. What is the difference between self-publishing, traditional publishing, and the type of publishing you do, hybrid publishing?
The traditional publishing is you send your book to a publisher. If you're lucky, I don't know what the odds are, they might pick it up. But the really interesting thing is I was talking to someone the other day about they were trying to get their book traditionally published. And he was sending his book to all these different publishers, and they say, "Well, if you hear back from us in 2 months, and if you don't hear back from us, we're not interested." So they don't even have the respect to send you an email and say, but what happens with traditional publishing is that they publish the book, you will get a small percentage. But the thing is that One of my clients was looking at it, and she found that they wanted her to change a lot in her book. And then there's also the question of who owns the intellectual property in the book. Because sometimes once you've got a book published with a traditional publisher, they own the book. So it's a long, tedious, can be a long road to get your book published. It can take a lot longer. With the self-publishing, well, then you've got to do it all yourself. You've got to format your book, which is can be a nightmare. You need to come up with the design for your book or find someone who you can trust to design your book. And believe me, if you're doing it yourself, getting it in exactly the right formats and sizing is not necessarily easy. Then you've got to know where to place the book. You've got to spend the time placing the book where you need it. You need to understand how Amazon works, so getting that onto Amazon to become the bestseller. There's a whole lot of different bits and pieces that you just have to do it all yourself. That's a self-publishing. So when I published my books, it took me a long time to go through that whole process as I was learning it. And you need to have a lot of research, and the research has to be up to date because it changes regularly, especially with Amazon all the time. So, with what I do is that I work individually with the client to discover what it is they want. What is it they're branding for their book? How do they want the book to look inside and out? And I have a graphic designer who I trust who can get the cover that they want and in the perfect format that's required for publishing. I do all the Amazon work for them. I get it up onto the platforms that are needed so the book becomes internationally available on all the online booksellers. And there's a lot of little things behind the scenes that you might not think about when you're self-publishing. Like the book has to be registered, like in Australia, it has to be registered with the National Library of Australia. It has to be, you've got to get your ISBN. And how do you go about getting your book ready for bestseller status? Because that requires some work from you with your social media and whatever. So for me, this is a great option because as an author, you need to be focusing that pre-release time on sharing your message and getting your audience ready for the release of this book. If you're publishing, self-publishing is going to take you a lot of time. So I can get a book published in 4 to 6 weeks. When I did it myself, it took a few months because I had to learn the whole experience. So it's the quickest way of getting a book into the world at this time, I believe.
Amazing. What services does your company offer?
I offer, like I said, the formatting of the book. So, and that's really important to get that right because you can't just put in a Word document. If you look at a book and measure it up, the right and the left side of the pages are different. So I create an individual book, like I said, for the author, and it becomes a beautiful book that when you open it, you want to read it. It is just the essence of the author. I get the book. I said the book designs done. I help to create their book into a bestseller. And apart from all that I've already spoken about, the other thing that I'm currently doing is looking at collaborative books. And with the way that we're doing them, it's includes book coaching and the experience of what I've just said, and I'll work with each author a little bit on that, and marketing and PR. So we've created a nice package. So we'll be doing that as a collaboration, and we'll be doing a number of other ones as time goes by.
Amazing. Can you give us a virtual walkthrough of behind the scenes of your publishing company, like a typical day you have?
A typical day. Oh, I don't necessarily have typical days. So if I was working with you on your book, I would be we would have a maybe a 1 hour meeting for right, every week while we're publishing. And then I would get the ideas. We would talk about how you want your book, the format, the even the font. What is it, the images that you want in the book? How do you want to describe yourself? And so we'd work on that, and then after the call, I would then spend some time working on that to get that right. And then after I've got about a chapter right, then it gets back to the client so that they can make sure that it's right before I spend hours and hours getting the rest of the formatting correct. But I do other things as well. So I'm kind of flicking through. I'll spend some time on my publishing clients and make sure that everything that they need is taken care of. But then I also have my own message from my own books that I need to share in the world. So I spend some time doing that, sharing that with the world, offering my services as a speaker. So sometimes I'll be out with that kind of thing, or um, and you can see chocolate and coffee. So I do various things, and I have to schedule them in. So there's no real typical day because the schedules change and chop according to uh, appointments, speaking gigs, chocolate and coffee breaks.
Amazing. What is the process for an author who wants to work with you?
So they would get in touch with me, and I would meet with them and have a conversation to make sure that this is what they want. This is the right package for them. So once we've gone through that, we have scheduled in weekly meetings, and then we start working through that process of one of the first things we do is to get the branding of the book right so that the cover can be designed. So pretty quickly, within a week, the designers will come back with at least 3 different covers according to what the author has talked about. And then they can chop and change and just say, "Oh, no, I don't like any of those," and he'll come back with more. So we keep going until the author has got the cover that feels right to them. So then we work on the formatting to get that all right. And when it comes to the getting the book listed on Amazon, have another session with them so that because I put everything on their own accounts, so their own Amazon account, their own book distribution print on demand account. It's all in their own name so that they receive all of the money. And I teach them how to go through that, how to use that as well. So with the Amazon one, when we want to get it to bestseller, we talk about the categories and things like that so that we get it right for them. And we also talk about that launch, when you're going to launch your book and how you're going to get to the bestseller. And I explain the whole process, and so that we can work on that together. So everything I do is let's work on this together. I allow the author to be as involved in the process as they want to. So I've worked with other authors who just kind of said, just do it. But most people they want that individual treatment and just want to be able to get their book into the world. So that it gets into the book becomes printed. They can get a proof book to check it over, and then they can have the access to get their books print on demand, and they'll be printed and sent through, can be done anywhere in the world.
Amazing. What are some of the important things that authors who are self-publishing may overlook when they start the self-publishing process?
Becoming a bestseller, Amazon bestseller, because that is really hard to work on. If you don't know, so you just put your book out and hope for the best, so you don't become a bestseller. Some of the intricacies in formatting, if you don't format your book right. And one of the things that really I find has been missed with some of my authors is they haven't had the book proofread. So they may have had an editor, but then they haven't had somebody else go through their book and just make sure that it all makes sense. Because sometimes the editor misses things, and even when a book's edited, you'll go through the you go back through the book a year later and you find all these mistakes and you just go, "Oh," which of course I can help you change if you need to. But it's always best to, because you're so familiar with your book that you overlook it. You know what it should say, so that's how you read it. And I've also found, so one of the editors I use, she also is the book coach. So she's become so familiar with the book as well. So we've worked on that of how to tighten that process up. But proofreading and editing are vital. There's nothing worse than picking up a book and finding, as a reader, and finding all these errors. You put it down. You just go, I'm not reading this. So don't forget to edit and proofread your book. Not you, somebody else.
Love that. What tips do you have for writers on where to begin with the publishing process?
I advise that they look at the options and understand the differences between the the three different models. I do have a document which can help you to do that. It outlines the three different models. So just look at them and see what's right with you, for you. If you want to try traditional publishing, go ahead, but you need to be persistent in getting that book accepted, and it's still going to be a lot of work and take a long time, but you have to keep on sending it in to all these different places. Yeah, so think about, with self-publishing, what your time is worth. Do you have the time to do that and put into it? So that's why someone like me comes along and says, "Well, I can guide you through this process and make it all happen for you."
Amazing. Do you have any advice for someone who's just starting out the journey of publishing?
So self-publishing themselves? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Just make sure you've got everything ticked off. Write yourself a checklist of what's important. Explore what you need. Think about every aspect. In my guide that I have available, it also has that checklist. So if people want to grab that, so you can see all the different avenues that are important for you to get your book published. Even if yourself, there's a lot of different things you need to consider. So try, as you're going through learning the process, make sure that you can see the different avenues that are available. Look at the different options. Get as much advice as you can. Have someone who have someone you can talk to about this topic.
Amazing. Is there anything you would like to say or add?
What I'd like to add is that your message is important. What you have to share with the world is so important, and just think of it, if your book touches one life, it's going to change their world. And from changing their world, you're going to change other people's world in their life. So your story is important. Get it out there, write it down, get it published, and share it with the world.
Amazing. Where's the best place for people to connect with you if they want to reach out to you and learn more about you and your company?
My website is www.puttingwords.com. So Puttingwords, or they can find me on LinkedIn or Facebook. My Under my name, it's very easy. No one else has the name Andrea Putting, so they can Google me and find me.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here today. We're so grateful that we got to interview you. We'll be sure to drop those links in the show notes. And again, thank you so much.
Thank you, Courtney. I've really enjoyed speaking with you.